In April 1917, over the deadly trenches of the Western Front, more than 300 British airmen perished in a single month, while the grim life expectancy for a new pilot dropped to just 17.5 flying hours amid relentless dogfights and flaming crashes. This brutal time came to be known as Bloody April, the nadir for the Royal Flying Corps in the Air War. Late February 1917, following the horrific attritions of Verdun and the Somme the previous year, the weary German forces executed a strategic withdrawal to the formidable Hindenburg Line, a compacted defensive network of bunkers, wire entanglements, and machine gun positions that demanded fewer men to defend and allowed redeployment elsewhere. As British scouting parties advanced through the devastated landscape the Germans had booby-trapped and scorched, they were halted by the line's unyielding strength. This barrier dominated Allied strategy for the remainder of 1917. French Commander-in-Chief Robert Nivelle boldly vowed to break the impasse with a sweeping assault, directing French armies to charge along the Aisne sector as British and Canadian units targeted points farther north, including Arras, Vimy Ridge, and Bullecourt. Air dominance emerged as crucial for victory. General Hugh Trenchard, the resolute head of the Royal Flying Corps, championed aggressive aerial tactics, insisting his pilots venture constantly over hostile territory rather than linger protectively behind friendly lines. As the Battle of Arras commenced, an unprecedented artillery prelude unleashed over 2.5 million shells, exceeding the Somme's barrage by 1 million rounds. Infantry advanced under a meticulously coordinated creeping barrage, achieving notable early breakthroughs. The Royal Flying Corps handled vital duties like ground support, scouting, raids, and guiding gunfire, but by spring 1917, their planes were outdated relics. From late 1916 onward, German pilots enjoyed aerial supremacy thanks to the advanced Albatros D series, which outmatched many British models in every way. Observation and bombing crews clung to sluggish, exposed craft such as the BE-2, RE-8, and FE-2B, which proved sitting targets for the swift, dual-gun Albatros fighters. Protection came from Nieuport 17 and Sopwith pups, yet these lagged in velocity and armament against their foes. Undeterred, reconnaissance missions pressed on daily, with crews conducting gunfire correction, mapping ditches, and low-level strikes right above adversary positions at reduced speeds. Such operations were perilous even in calm times, and without parachutes for British flyers, escape from doom was rare. Tragically, the situation deteriorated further for Royal Flying Corps aviators. In March, a fresh German fighter group reached the battlefield, Jagdstaffel 11, under the command of a youthful former cavalryman, Manfred von Richthofen, destined for infamy as the Red Baron. Guided by Richthofen's tactical brilliance, Jasta 11 terrorized the skies, reportedly responsible for over a third of British aerial defeats in April 1917. German foot soldier Ernst Junger reflected later, during these days, a string of aerial clashes unfolded, nearly always concluding in British setbacks against Richthofen's outfit, with 5 or 6 planes often pursued or plummeting in fire one after another. These crushing tolls sparked a dire pilot deficit in the Royal Flying Corps, prompting rushed training regiments that dispatched novices to combat with scant hours aloft. Countless youths perished within days of arrival. Conversely, German aviation stressed veteran command and group synergy, having revamped their forces post-1916 struggles into specialized Jagdstaffeln helmed by battle-hardened experts armed with the superior Albatros D.VII, albeit in lesser quantities than British fleets. Their numerical disadvantage and protective posture turned advantageous, battling mostly above home soil for selective engagements and survivors of downings landed among allies instead of foes. By April's close, the Royal Flying Corps mourned 245 lost planes, 211 crew deceased or vanished, and 108 imprisoned, while Germans sacrificed merely 66 aircraft. Bloody April signified the Royal Flying Corps' bleakest era. Despite the carnage, German aviators failed to halt the Royal Flying Corps' essential contributions. Across the Arras campaign, British air units persisted unyieldingly, securing overhead images, calibrating cannon fire, and executing penetrative strikes. Crucially, their gunfire direction enabled precise British barrages that sustained field control. This effort yielded a 3.5-mile push, modest yet the deepest since static trenches solidified in 1914. Momentum faded swiftly as German backups arrived, reverting combat to entrenched quagmire by mid-May, when the drive halted entirely. Bloody April's devastation underscored the obsolescence of Royal Flying Corps and Royal Naval Air Service machines against German hunters, demanding swift innovation in speed, agility, and weaponry. In England, the prior year, at Sopwith's Kingston-upon-Thames plant, lead engineer Herbert Smith initiated a fresh scout, the Sopwith F-1. It boasted standard construction for the era: a braced timber frame body, metal nose cowling, plywood near the pilot's seat, and cloth over wings, tail, and hull. Evolving from his triumphant Sopwith pup, it resembled its forebear visually, but flew worlds apart. The pup was nimble, tolerant, and user-friendly. Ace James McCudden praised it as an exceptionally versatile flyer, so light and smooth that with practice one could nearly set it down on a lawn court. The F-1 proved larger, weightier, and far trickier to handle. Dubbed the Big Pup at first, it pioneered twin Vickers guns for British scouts, positioned ahead of the pilot and synced to shoot past the propeller safely, with covers shielding them from high-altitude chill, creating the hump that inspired its Camel moniker. On December 22, 1916, Australian trailblazer Harry Hawker piloted the initial model from Brooklands in Weybridge, Surrey, then Britain's aviation epicenter and now a splendid museum. Unlike the pup's mild demeanor, the Sopwith Camel demanded sharp reflexes and was infamously unforgiving. Most mass, including motor, fuel, and weapons, concentrated forward, and the rotary engine's gyroscopic pull caused uneven response. Slow left turns lifting the nose, rapid right turns dipping it sharply, leading some to favor extended right swings over brief lefts. It reached 113 miles per hour top speed, 300-mile range, and 19,000-foot ceiling. Upon deployment, the Camel earned a lethal repute among learners due to its odd balance, touchy steering, and poor taxiing, sparking frequent liftoff mishaps. In flight, stalls triggered vicious spins hard to escape, proving fatal for greenhorns. Central Flying School's Lieutenant Colonel L.A. Strange noted in his memoir, "Despite precautions, Camels routinely spun wildly under solo trainees. Eventually, with workshop Chief Lieutenant Morgan's aid, we swapped main tanks for slimmer ones in several to install dual controls, curbing the dire crash rate in basic instruction. Paradoxically, these flaws, its volatility and precision demands, forged the Camel's prowess in combat. Flyers quipped it granted a wooden cross, Red Cross Aid, or Victoria Cross Glory. Historian Robert Jackson captured it well. To a tyro it was vicious and murderous, but to a proficient ace exploiting its traits, it ranked among history's top combatants. This shone when the Sopwith Camel debuted on the Western Front in June 1917. Royal Naval Air Service's No. 4 Squadron at Bray Dunes north of Dunkirk first fielded it, swiftly claiming kills. On June 5th evening, Flight Commander Alexander Schuck downed an Albatros D.III and a biplace off Belgium's shore, attaining ace rank after prior pup triumphs in April and May. Unverified accounts mention a June 4th skirmish near Newport where Schuck assailed another biplace, but records omit it. June 13th saw Royal Flying Corps No. 70 Squadron adopt the Sopwith Camel, operational by early July near Arras. Their inaugural confirmed win came June 27th. Captain Clive Collett felling an Albatros D.V over Ypres in Camel B3756. By September, the Kiwi Colette tallied 11 triumphs. July 12th brought Captain Webb's victory over an Albatros Scout in the same plane. July 17th evening, Webb's Camel Patrol clashed with Jasta 11 over Belgium, leveraging the fighter's nimbleness and guns to claim 5 foes and injure 1. A stark turnaround from Bloody April's woes. Seasoned aviators lauded the newcomer. Lieutenant Leonard Rochford of 3 Naval Squadron stated, "By mid-July, the Camel supplanted our pups entirely. Though the pup delighted in flight, the Camel excelled vastly in battle." From September 1917 to September 1918, Canadian Wing Commander William Barker, his nation's most honored warrior, notched 46 wins on aircraft and aerostats, his Camel B6313 holding the war's top single-plane tally. By February 1918, 13 units mainly flew Camels, joining Royal Aircraft Factory SE-5As and French SPAD 13s to reclaim temporary air mastery. Beyond the front, the Sopwith Camel safeguarded Britain from invaders. From July 1917, Royal Naval Air Service Camels from Eastchurch and Manston thwarted daytime Gotha raids. Escalating threats diverted France-bound Camel groups to Homeland Guard. By March 1918, it anchored defense forces. As Germans switched to nocturnal bombings, the Camel adapted for darkness, adding lights for night pursuit. Some received major tweaks, swapping synced Vickers for overhead Lewis guns, preserving night sight by elevating flashes and enabling incendiary rounds unsafe for prop sync fire. Through 1918, Camels increasingly thwarted intruders. In Britain's last big raid overnight, May 20th to 21st, 1918, 74 Camels and SE-5s engaged 28 Gothas and Zeppelin Stockens, downing 3 in fights, 2 to flak, and 1 to malfunction, the gravest one-night toll for German bombers over England. The Sopwith 2F1 Camel, or Ship's Camel, tailored the F1 for naval use by the Royal Naval Air Service to suit maritime demands. It featured reduced wingspan and detachable aft body for ship storage and ease. Often powered by Bentley BR rotary engines for sea reliability, many swapped 1 Vickers for a top-mounted Lewis to fire anti-Zeppelin incendiaries. Launched from warship turret pads and early carriers like HMS Furious, which pioneered deck takeoffs for airship intercepts and scouting. Camels also soared from lighters, adapted barges pulled swiftly by destroyers, for remote forward basing against distant German raiders. Despite glories, by mid-1918, swift advances outdated the Camel front line. The potent Fokker D.VII highlighted its deficits in altitude and climb endurance. Still, its spryness and durability suited alternate duties. Shifted to surface assaults, Camels armed with Cooper explosives and Vickers strafed enemy positions, routes, and gatherings, wreaking havoc on Germans, yet exposing pilots to fierce anti-aircraft and dive failures. The anticipated Sopwith Snipe, hampered by delays and supply issues, arrived scantily before war's end, keeping the Camel active till November 1918's ceasefire and after. The Royal Air Force phased it out in 1920, though its influence lingered as foreign militaries used it into the 20s for fighting and schooling. Its demanding quirks proved its edge, lethal to rookies in crashes, but rewarding experts with supremacy. Mastered, the Camel minted aces aplenty. Its signature profile and feats cemented it as a First World War icon, with 1,294 verified conquests, the premier Allied fighter tally of the conflict.